Roger Bell's composition, the tune called the Onion Bender's Lament. And joining me on Jazz on a Saturday, from the Onion Country, really, isn't it? From Ballarat, Bob Patty. Welcome to Jazz on a Saturday, Bob.
Thanks very much, Roger.
Thanks for taking the time to come in and join us. And as people may or may not have guessed, we're going to feature a lot of Australian compositions on today's Jazz on a Saturday. A reason for it, and Bob will tell you as the show moves along, is the work that Bob's doing towards keeping Australian compositions alive, I think we could call it, Bob.
Well, something like that, Roger, yeah.
Tunes, and most of them that you've worked on so far have been entrants at Australian jazz conventions. At each Australian jazz convention there is an original tunes composition or competition, and I'm not sure of all the rules of it, but it's got to be written a couple of years in the 2 years previously, and
yes, I think it might be 12 months now, I'm not sure myself.
But anyway, out of each of the jazz conventions, we're heading nearly to the 50th convention. All bar, I think, the first and the 8th in Hobart had original tunes winners.
That's correct.
And how long ago did you decide to put them all together in a folder?
Well, it all started off from the recording venture that I was in with the Golden City Jazz Band, and we did one for Jazz and Jazz very early on, but they weren't winners of original tune competitions. So we did a cassette of Australian compositions. It was called Golden City 7 Plays Oz Tunes, and that's really when the recording of tunes commenced. And springing from that, the Australian Jazz Convention then asked the band if we would undertake the project to record all the original tunes winners from 1947 through to the present day. That started in 1981 or 82, and to date we've got one CD out, it's been released, and we've started on the second one. So it's quite a big project because it's going to be well over 50 tunes.
And you've had a few problems over the years finding some of them?
Yes, it's some of the ones that we did on the last CD we couldn't locate charts for. We had to actually write and just get the charts from wherever we could, and someone could sing the song virtually. We wrote it down. It didn't quite get that bad, but it has been fairly bad, and we've had to rely on rather scratchy 78s and poor quality jazz convention recordings for some of them to get some of them together. But it's all falling in place now.
Right, we're going to play some during today's Jazz on a Saturday. We'll talk about a couple later on that you're missing. Maybe someone's got a scratchy old acetate sitting under the house, or a piece of wire recording, or something that may have the tracks on. We'll talk about those later. But let's feature a track off the CD called The Winners, and you've selected one, Bob. And
this one's the tune that was equal first, actually, in 1967, and written by a fellow that's pretty well known around the jazz scene in Melbourne, Nick Polides, and the tune is called Helping Hand Rag.
the Golden City Seven and their interpretation of a tune written by Nick Polites. And halfway through it, I've had this CD at home for, I must plead stupidity here, I've had this CD since I bought one at the jazz convention at Christmas, and halfway through it I said to Bob, Paddy, it sounds like Nick Polites playing the clarinet in it. And I was right, wasn't I?
Yes,
I reckon I've played that 10 times
certainly
today.
is, Nick. It's the policy of while we're recording these original compositions, that if we can get the composer involved in playing on his or her own tune, we do so, just to add a bit of interest to the thing.
Well, I hope that sometime during today's program you've got that magnificent one of Dave Everington program to play, Teardrops.
Yes, we'll do that.
We must play that. I love that. I think it's one of the best compositions round. So, Bob, we've got one CD of them out with 14 tunes on, called The Winners, the Golden City Seven. That's a band led by Herb Jennings.
That's right, yeah.
And you're currently not in that band, are you? You're in...
No, although I'm living in Ballarat, I still do jobs with Herb. In fact, I did a job with Herb last weekend, and still play with the fellas up there quite a bit, so I'm in touch with what's happening. But,
your big project at the moment, though, is the Creole Bells heading to America, I would assume.
Yeah, that's right. We're going to Sacramento on May the 20th. Yeah.
And as a preamble to that, you're featuring tonight at the Victorian Jazz Club.
That's right,
Creole
Roger.
Bells.
Yep.
So it's sort of the first of a couple of send-offs. I know you've got one
Yes.
on Thursday the 13th. Is that right? Yeah.
Thursday the 13th of May is at the Boundary Hotel.
So there's a couple of times that you can catch up with the Creole Bells before they head to America. That's tonight at the Victorian Jazz Club, which is a White Horse Inn Hotel, Burwood Road in Hawthorne, or on Thursday the 13th of May. And probably for Thursday the 13th, I'd advise you ring the Boundary Hotel and book a table, because I'd say there'll be lots of people wanting to get down there and wave the flag for the Creole Bells heading overseas.
Actually, Roger, does this program go across to Tasmania?
Not unless
Did you get
someone,
that far?
not unless someone
I
rings
was
up.
just saying, because we are going across there next weekend,
Are
next
you?
Friday for 3 days. We're doing a mini tour over there too. If anybody happens to be listening,
Anybody in Tasmania listening, we'd love to hear from you too if you're listening in Tasmania. Where are you playing in Tassie next weekend, Bob?
I think it's Launceston, Hobart, and St Helens, but I'm not terribly sure about that one.
Well, if anybody rings up today, we'll find out definitely about it. But the Creole Bells heading to Tasmania next week, so you're fairly busy before you head off to America.
Yes.
Bob, let's have another go at the Winners CD. I think this is right. No, it's not. We're going to feature next up. No,
Yeah,
we
the
didn't.
tape.
No, we decided to put a tape on. That's
Yes,
right.
we're going to Tasmania again. This is the winning tune in 1990, and it was written by Chris Kelsey, and the tune's called Golden Blues Rag, and the band that plays it is basically the Creole Bells, with the addition of a guy called Ross Nicholson on clarinet, who comes from Perth, and Graham Eames from Adelaide is playing second trumpet on it. This is Golden Blues Rag, the winning tune from 1990. That's a tune called The Golden Blues Rag, written by Sydney musician Chris Kelsey, and that won the original tunes competition at Launceston in 1990.
Chris has won it a couple of times, I think, Bob, hasn't he?
He's won
2
it,
or 3 times.
He's won it twice, I think.
He won
2
in
times.
Adelaide.
He's won it 3 times. He won with Sauerkraut Strut, which I might play later. That one we just heard, and a tune called Goolwa Grind in 1967, I think it was.
So he's won
or something like that.
3 out of the 40s, 3 out of 46 or 7.
3 times, yeah.
Chris Kelsey, a very prolific composer. You're listening to Jazz on a Saturday on 3CR. We spoke a minute ago about Dave Hetherington's tune Teardrops. And I could in fact remember as a young lad in short trousers sitting in the audience at the 1963 Australian Jazz Convention, only the second original competition, it's a bit hard to say, that I'd ever been to, and I can remember thinking, gee, that was a good tune. And the winning tune was Dave Hetherington and Teardrops. This is a version from the CD called The Winners. Dave Heverington's Teardrops, and Bob Patty said I must have been in short trousers for many years, because that in fact was recorded, or was the winner, in 1966, not 1963, so if I had short trousers on they'd probably be right up above the knees. You're listening to Jazz on a Saturday on 3CR Community Radio in Melbourne. My special guest into the studio today, well-known trumpeter around town with the Creole Bells, also plays quite regularly too with the Golden City Jazz Band from Ballarat, Bob Patty. Bob will be back with me in a minute or two, but before we do, a reminder about the Victorian Jazz Club. It's on tonight and features Steve Waddell's Creole Bells. Steve Waddell's Creole Bells. They're the stars of the show at the Victorian Jazz Club tonight. The doors open round about 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 7 o'clock we'll say tonight, and the music starts at 8:30. Good food is available. There will be a dance floor, and the music, well, you'll hear lots of it during today's Jazz on a Saturday. We've got a few tracks of the Creole Bells lined up, and if you enjoy that, you'll enjoy the music tonight at the Victorian Jazz Club. So pop along there tonight. Steve Waddell's Creole Bells, they take the stage at 8:30. The doors open at 7, and a good night is assured. Good food is available, and the dance floor will be in operation. So we'd love to see you tonight at the Victorian Jazz Club, the White Horse Inn Hotel, 5 Burwood Road in Hawthorn. You can travel there by train or by tram. If you go by train, it's right opposite the Hawthorn station, and the tram stops right outside the door. If you're driving, there's a car park at the hotel, and also car parking is available in the area surrounding the hotel. So we'd love to see you tonight, and so would the Creole Bells at the Victorian Jazz Club. Steve Waddell's Creole Bells from 8:30 right through until 11:30. On today's Jazz on a Saturday, we're playing lots of original Australian compositions. We're featuring tracks off a new CD, which is available through the Australian Jazz Convention Trustees supported it, recorded by the Golden City 7, and available in a few shops around town. And I'm sure if you talk to Bob Patty at the Victorian Jazz Club tonight, he'll probably have one or two in his bag. He might only have one, which he'll sell you, the one he's had here today. But
I'll send them down to you, Roger.
Right, Bob. But that, if you enjoy it, it's available, and I think it's a project which is well worth supporting. Bob, we'll feature another track of music, and then we'll come back and talk about the tunes that you're looking for, just in case somebody's got that piece of wire or an acetate, or even a piece of, I don't think they had cassettes at the stage of the tunes that you're looking for. They're a little bit before the days of cassettes.
Oh, no, some of the ones that I'm chasing were recorded. They were officially recorded.
Well, we'll look at that in a minute or two, but you've gone right back, and we're going to hear one of the tunes as it was first recorded.
Yes, actually, this one is on the winner CD. It won the original tunes in 1951, and the tune, I think this is the original version. I'm not 100% sure of this, but I'm pretty sure this is the original version of this tune by Ade Monstra, and it's called Stop Miss Hannah.
Stomp Miss Hannah, the Southern Jazz Group, with Abe Monsborough, and that was a winning tune from way back in 1951. On today's Jazz on a Saturday, if you're listening in the Richmond area, a 6-year-old Chihuahua has been lost. A 6-year-old Chihuahua has been lost in the Richmond area. It's brown with white spots or white with brown spots. White with brown spots. And Bob, you'll never guess what it's called. The dog white with brown spots.
Spotty.
No, Coco.
Oh.
See, pretty close. You nearly won. If you've seen a 6-year-old Chihuahua answering to the name of Coco, which is brown and white. White and brown. Doesn't matter whichever way you look. It's white, brown, brown, white. Wendy is the distressed owner of it, and she'd love to hear from you. 850-8436. 850-8436. A reward is offered, and if you're a musician, it's better than a night's wages. 850-8436. That's for the spotted Chihuahua, Coco, missing in the Richmond area. It's a nice place to live, Richmond, so it might have decided to move from wherever 850 is and settle in Richmond. You're listening to Jazz on a Saturday, which is full of fun and hilarity every Saturday on 3CR Community Radio in Melbourne. From Stomp Miss Hannah, we're back to the Winners CD, and you better tell us a bit about this one, Bob.
Yes, this is the winning tune in at the 7th Australian Jazz Convention, 1952, Melbourne, written by Dave Delwitz. And I'm just looking at the list here. It's a strange thing. Dave, I think, has been to nearly every jazz convention that I've been to, and he's put a tune in the first 6 years of the competition. He, in fact, won the competition 3 times, and I don't think he's won it since. So it's rather strange, that.
Is there any bias amongst the judges, do you think?
I don't know, but Dave Delwitz has certainly written dozens and dozens of good tunes and still writing them. And this is his tune that won in 1952 in Melbourne. It's called Reed Warblers.
That was a tune written and the winner in 1952, written by Dave Delwitz, the winner at the 1952 Australian Convention, which I believe was held in the Paran Town Hall, written by Dave Delwitz, called Reed Warblers. I asked Bob before we featured that tune, the tunes he was looking for, and Bob's just done a little bit of mental arithmetic and written a long list.
There's 5 tunes that still we're still looking for. Whether we actually get them or not, we're still trying. But
5 winning tunes.
2 by Peter Pretty, 1954 and 55. The conventions in those 2 years were in Sydney and Cootamundra. One tune was called That Ain't Right, and the other one was called Take It Away, Henry. Now, Peter can't remember the tunes at all. Someone else told me that, in fact, he'd lost anything he may have had, he'd lost in Cyclone Tracy. He's living in Darwin at the time.
Now, have you got chords or anything for those?
I've got chords for one, for That Ain't Right, and a couple of guys have had goes at writing the melody line, but not terribly successful at this stage. We've got about half the melody line from a couple of people's memories, but it's all very inconclusive at the moment. Take It Away, Henry, we've got absolutely nothing. Old Nick Rag, which we're going to play in a moment, I came across the good fortune that Trevor Rippingale, who's a very fine reeds player, used to live in Melbourne, now lives in Sydney, and he has an acetate of Ross playing the performance, the tune. It came from a recording session when Ross was playing with the Port Phillip Jazz Band in Melbourne, and he actually recorded it in the 60s. So we haven't got the actual performance, but we've got a performance of the composer playing the rag. So, but I'm still looking for the manuscript of that particular tune. If anybody has a manuscript of it, I'd appreciate a copy.
That's Old Nick Rag.
Old Nick Rag, it's called. A very complex rag, I might add. If anybody was going to write it out, they'd have to be pretty good. Bondi Babies, we're still chasing after. Aid Monsper's tune from 1959. I've written dozens and dozens of letters in relation to this tune, and the closest we've got at the moment is that Robert Parker's company recorded the 59 convention in Cootamundra, and Bill Hazler from Sydney is contacting Robert to see if any tapes are being kept from that convention, so he may still get it.
Now, if that one had have been recorded, there'd be a fair chance that someone around may have an acetate.
Someone may have a tape of the performance. I know from talking to Neville Stribling that there are tapes of that convention around, because Neville's got a tape of his band playing from that convention.
It's also been a bit of an argument up until the last year or so what that tune was actually called, wasn't it?
It's called Bondi Babies because I contacted Lockie Thompson, who played on the tune, and he said, in his own words, I've got the letter that he wrote to me, he said that they wanted to impress the judges. So they went across the street from where the convention was to the Cootamundra Printery, and they got hold of the typewriter there, and they typed out the chords, and I've got a copy of those chords. They typed out the chords, and they used a letterhead belonging to the Cootamundra newspaper. So Bondi Babies is what appears on the top of that, so as far as I'm concerned, that's the title of the tune.
It was listed for many years as Bondi Bells.
That's right, yeah. And the other tune I'm looking for, which I think is a more recent one, we won't have a great deal of trouble getting hold of. I've got a tape of the tune. I don't think, from listening to the tape, I don't know whether I particularly want to get the manuscript, but the tune's called Digits.
Digits?
And it was written by Tony Faulkner for Wollongong in 1984. I'm still looking for the manuscript of that.
So there's 5 tunes. Now, if people, somebody out there may have them, may be interested in it, can we give him your home phone number, Bob, and they can give you a call?
Yes.
They can ring us now at 3CR if anyone knows sort of any details straight away, 4198377. But you could give Bob a call during the week.
I'm at Ballarat, and my telephone number at Ballarat is 053 393 747 for anybody that might have information on any of those 5.
And I know Bob spent many, many hours. I know I've had a couple of letters about Bondi Babies, and I've got copies of them, and I want to congratulate Bob on what he's done so far, and just if anyone can help with those 5 tunes, Bob would be wrapped, and the whole Australian jazz movement would be wrapped.
We had the added problem too, Roger, that the Australian Jazz Convention put out a folder of tunes in 1971. There were 6 tunes or 7 tunes in it that Ross Collins had transcribed, and he'd just taken them straight off recordings, and in a lot of cases hadn't consulted the composers for their original manuscripts, and I'm finding now that a lot of those manuscripts, the Teardrops was one, the chording was not what the composer thought it should be. Not to say that they were incorrect, but they weren't the composer's chords, and the same thing has happened just recently with Neville Stribling's original tune, so I've had a bit of correspondence backwards and forwards to try and correct all of that too.
Well, we're now going to have a listen to Old Nick Rag, and this is off an acetate of just a bit Ross playing piano.
Yeah, it was actually this was the winning tune at the Melbourne Convention in the year of the Olympic Games, 1956. Yeah, it's off an old acetate, recorded some 3 or 4 years later. Old Nick Rag.
Old Nick Rag, a tune written by the late Ross Collins. And, gee, that sounded good, Bob.
It's very good. Yeah, it's a great track, that, I think.
In true ragtime form as well.
Yeah, it's really sort of jelly Roll Morton, isn't it?
Yeah, it's got a bit of sort of Scott Joplin type bits in the middle, and good. We haven't really had we've had a lot of things called rags written in Australia, but not a lot of them in the real true rag tradition, but that was nice. Ross Collins. Yeah. And obviously, you're looking for the manuscript of it. You think that you might issue that particular track at some stage?
Yes, I've spoken to the trustees about that, and they rather favour the idea, rather than trying to recreate it, getting someone else to play it. The acetate of that is so good that if we can get permission to actually use that on the next winter CD, we'll put it on directly.
I think you should. I think you should fight them forever to try and get something like that, and especially by someone like Ross Collins. Ross, in his career, recorded so little material. There's 4 or 5 tracks on an LP called The Piano Players, and very little else of Ross to remember. One of the great piano players.
He certainly was.
Bob, we're listening to Jazz on a Saturday, and you're playing at the Victorian Jazz Club tonight, if you didn't know that already. And Bob is the trumpet player with Steve Waddell's Creole Bells. They're the stars of the show at the Victorian Jazz Club tonight. That's at the White Horse Inn Hotel for future events at the Victorian Jazz Club. As I said, the Creole Bells are the stars of the show tonight. Next Saturday night at the Victorian Jazz Club, Radio Days. Radio Days at the Victorian Jazz Club, that's on the 8th of May. On the 15th of May, the young band Jazz on Tap. Jazz on Tap, the 15th of May at the Victorian Jazz Club, followed on the 22nd by a special featuring the Red Onions. The Red Onions at the Victorian Jazz Club on May 22, and Nick Polite's New Orleans Stompers. They finish the month on May the 29th. So a big month of music at the Victorian Jazz Club for the month of May. Tonight, Creole Bells. Next Saturday, Radio Days. Saturday the 15th, Jazz on Tap. Saturday the 22nd, the Red Onions. And the 29th, I think I said January, the 29th of May, Nick Polite's New Orleans Stompers. If you'd like to book, this is a booking number only for seats at the Victorian Jazz Club on a Saturday night. 818-4991, 818-4991. General inquiries for the Victorian Jazz Club, please direct them to 646-1178, 646-1178. And while you're talking to 646-1178, that's also the number to call if you're interested in the Victorian Jazz Club's workshop. It's a workshops that the Victorian Jazz Club conduct every year for young musicians who are able to handle their instrument but would like to find out how to play traditional jazz. The Victorian Jazz Club conducts a series of workshops. The first one for this year is on the 15th, May the 15th, and they'll run for 8 Saturdays. There's a small charge involved, but please, if you're interested, or if you're listening and you've got a son or daughter who are under the age of 26 and would like to learn how to play traditional jazz, and they'll be taught by a couple of well-known musicians from around town, please give Marge a ring on 646-1178, 646-1178, because it's through the Victorian Jazz Club workshops that we've had quite a few young bands around town, and it's something that we need to keep jazz going for the future. And it's some of these musicians who will be playing tunes that Bob Patty and I are talking about today, and they'll get hold of Bob Patty's manuscripts Bob's put together of the Australian tunes, and hopefully in the year of 2047 or 2056, when Bob Patty and I are probably well gone from this earth, people will still be playing original Australian jazz compositions, and maybe some of the kids who go to the workshop from May the 15th for that 8 weeks will play some of those tunes. Don't forget, at the Victorian Jazz Club tonight, Steve Waddell's Creole Bells. Steve Waddell's Creole Bells at the Victorian Jazz Club tonight. If you're a little bit further down the coast, the Geelong Jazz Club has a big night of jazz tonight. Owen Yateman's Jazzmen at the Victorian Jazz Club tonight. And among the jazzmen, of course, the great Yatey on the trombone, and he'll sing a few vocals too. On the trumpet, Roger Vincent. Playing piano is Frankie Gow. Ian Coots is the drummer. On the reeds, David Gardner. And Paul Ludowick on the bass. Paul Ludowick playing the bass. That's at the Geelong Jazz Club tonight. During the next week at the Fountain Inn Hotel, on Wednesday night, the London Banjo Band. On Thursday night, Swing is here. Swing is in. Next Thursday night at the Fountain Inn Hotel, and they've got a special guest next Thursday night, Bob Patty on the trumpet. Next Friday night at the Fountain Inn Hotel, Hotter Than Six. And next Saturday afternoon, as always, Basin Street. And tonight, down at the Fountain Inn Hotel, they've got the New Orleans Hot Four. And next Saturday night, they've got Amelia Wilmot's Quartet featuring Stephen Grant. So that's the lineup for the Fountain Inn Hotel for the next week. Right, we've got some more jazz news, but we'll bring that to you later on Jazz on a Saturday. But with me in the studio, trumpeter from the Creole Bells and historian regarding Australian jazz compositions, Bob Patty. Bob, we've played from early conventions. What about the last Australian Jazz Convention, the one held in Geelong?
Yes, at the last Australian Jazz Convention, we had the usual 16 to 20 entries before the judges, and Eric Holroyd came first and Chris Kelsey came second, but we're going to play them in the opposite order.
Play second first.
Basically, the band on the first track that came second is the Creole Bells, with, I think, Tony Orr was on banjo, and I think Trevor Rippingale's on sax in there somewhere on this. The tune's called Brooklyn Bridge. It came second, and on Eric Holroyd's tune, for anybody that's interested. It's called Noah Limber Breakout, the tune that won. The personnel was Chris Ludovic trombone, I played second trumpet, Eric Holroyd played first trumpet, Murray Kent is on clarinet, Clint Smith banjo, Doug Rawson piano, Pip Event tuba.
Now there's a little story about this tune, isn't there? Most of the tunes are names of the tunes. There's a story behind them. I think this next one's quite interesting.
Well, it's a rather long story. I'll be here for another quarter of an hour.
Paraphrase it very quickly.
Well, basically it commemorates the Western Australian Jazz Festival, which was held last year at a migrant camp called Noah Limber, which is all very pleasant and nice and all that sort of thing, but everybody wanted to break out and get away from the place. It was a place of early morning loudspeakers and all that sort of thing. Eric Holroyd tells the story in some great detail. I won't go into it now. Hence the Noah Limber Breakout is the title.
You're listening to Jazz on a Saturday.
Entry number 11, Noah Limber Breakout.
Oh, that was the winning tune from the 47th Australian Jazz Convention at Geelong in 1992. The tune was titled No Limber Breakout and written by Eric Holroyd. And just before that, we heard the tune that came second at the same convention. It was called Brooklyn Bridge, and composed by Chris Kelsey.
You're listening to Jazz on a Saturday, and just as a little bit of trivia, I suppose, Eric Holroyd, the winner of that, the writer of that winning tune, is going away to America with the Creole Bells as their second trumpet player. Next up, we're going to feature the winner from 1978, and it's written by a mutual friend of Bob and mine, the great Herb Jennings.
He's listening today too, Roger.
Is he?
Yeah, he'll be listening.
And Herb called this one
Golden City Strut.
Herb Jennings' composition, the winner in 1978. Herb Jennings's composition from the winner in 1978, Golden City Strut, and that was played by the Golden City Jazz Band on one of the tracks on the winner's CD. Very good, 14 tracks. Bob, Volume 2.
Volume 2 is on the way. We've started. We had a recording session over at Ballarat just after the Eureka Jazz Fest. We had 3 guests in town. 3 of them were composers, so we utilised them. John Roberts has won the competition 3 times. Alex Frames won it 2 or 3 times, and Bob Crookshanks has won it once, and we had them all in Ballarat for the Eureka Jazz Fest, so we utilised them, used them on the recording, and we have in fact done another 8 tracks for the next CD.
And if you add old Nick Ragg, that would make 9.
That's 9 of the done, so we've got to do another half, then in Volume 2 of the winners will be on the way.
Right, let's feature another track. Bob.
This is one we did in fact re-record this the other night, the first time it's been recorded since it's won, as far as I know. It won the original tunes competition at the 12th Australian Jazz Convention in 1957 in Adelaide. The tune is called Green Jar Grind, and this is the original performance of it at the convention in 57, and the composer was a musician from Adelaide. I think his name is Cole Nettlebeck.
Sounds like it was recorded in the Adelaide Town Hall before a very big crowd.
Yeah, where was it? The convention was
the convention was at Glenelg, but they used to have some of the concerts in the Adelaide Town Hall. Could have been the Glenelg Town Hall, before my time anyway.
It just says Adelaide on the list that I've got.
I think the vocal won it for it.
Yeah, we're just saying before that the very few of the tunes have got vocals on them. There's only, out of the 50 or so tunes, there's only about half a dozen, 5 or 6 that have got a vocal on them, so...
Bob, while you've been hunting for these tunes, you must have come up with place getters that are very, very good
Oh,
too.
yeah, some of the place getters are better than the originals. And,
You and I are not judges.
and
No correspondence will be
and
had.
some that didn't even run a drum, have been recorded. I think that the Butte tune of Neville Stribling's is one of my favourites, Hazel Eyes. It was an entrant in the Forbes convention, and it didn't run anywhere, and it's since been recorded by the Australian jazz band, Bob Bernard.
That tune that Aid wrote that you play in Perth is not a bad tune.
Well, that came second, though. That was a place getter, and in a lot of cases I think the second place getters are better tunes than the first, but it's only my opinion.
You might end up being a judge.
But since I've been collecting the tunes, I've been writing these out as well, the seconds and thirds, so I've got the manuscripts for them as well, wherever I could find them.
Right, so we've got another one now. You spoke of Alex Frame winning 2 or 3 of the competitions.
Yes, 1961 at the 16th Jazz Convention, Adelaide 1961, Alex Frame won the competition, and the tune was called Black Diamond Strut, and it's on the winner's CD, and here it is.
You're listening to Jazz on a Saturday on 3CR Community Radio in Melbourne. Don't forget tonight at the Victorian Jazz Club, Steve Waddell's Creole Bells. Steve Waddell's Creole Bells at the Victorian Jazz Club tonight. Doors open at 7, music from 8:30 until 11:30. We'd love to see you there. Steve Waddell's Creole Bells, their penultimate performance before they leave Melbourne for the Sacramento Jazz Festival. Their last performance is on Thursday the 13th of May. Thursday the 13th of May, and it's at the Boundary Hotel in East Bentley. And don't forget at the Boundary every Friday night, you've got the great sounds of Ross Anderson's New Melbourne Jazz Band, and Saturday night they've got the Riverboat Band. Ross is back from the festival tour that he's been to, so he'll be back at the Peter Laylaw Hotel in Bulleen this coming Thursday night. So New Melbourne back to normal Thursday and Friday nights. Down in Werribee Way, they've just started a new jazz and swing club, a jazz and swing club in Werribee, and they'd love to hear from people who live in the Werribee area. And Roy Phillips is a gentleman to talk to. The Werribee Jazz and Swing Club it's called, and Roy would love to hear from anyone in Werribee and surrounding districts who'd be interested in joining the club, musicians, members, anybody who's interested in jazz and swing in the Werribee area. Roy's phone number is 742 4289. 742 4289. That's for the Werribee Jazz and Swing Club. Roy Phillips is a contact. 742 4289. Bob, we're starting to move along time-wise. Let's go straight into this next track, and then we'll have a little bit of a roundup of what's been happening.
Yes, this is from the 41st Australian Jazz Convention, 1986, Adelaide. The winning original tune was called Sauerkraut Strut, and it was composed by Chris Kelsey.
Sauerkraut Strut, the winner in,
1986, Adelaide.
1986 Adelaide, Chris Kelsey's composition. We're just about running out of time on Jazz on a Saturday. I thought, Bob, we'd try and get a quick mention of the tunes that you're still looking for, the manuscripts you're still looking for.
The ones I'm still looking for are 1954, Sydney, the tune's called That Ain't Right. 1955, Cootamundra, the tune's called Take It Away Henry. 1956, Melbourne, Old Nick Rag. And 1959, Cootamundra, the tune is called Bondi Babies, and the final one is from the 1984 convention in Wollongong. The tune is called Digits.
Bob, thanks for joining us on today's Jazz on a Saturday. All the best with the CD and your project. All the best too at the Victorian Jazz Club tonight with the Creole Bells. It's at the White Horse Inn Hotel. And all the best too on your pending overseas trip.
Thanks very much, Roger, and thanks, listeners.
And Bob, just in case somebody's tuned in late and has those tunes, what about your phone number just once
My
again?
phone number is 053 393 747.
And keep us informed. If you find another one, rush it in and we'll play it on Jazz on a Saturday. That's about it for another Jazz on a Saturday, but we'll go right back to the winner of the first the Australian Jazz Composition competition. But before we do, don't forget the Victorian Jazz Club tonight. Steve Waddell's Creole Bells, the White Horse Inn, Hotel 5 Burwood Road in Hawthorn. Doors open at 7, music from 8:30 until 11:30. My name's Roger Bilby. John Smythe will be here next Saturday. I'll be back in a fortnight's time on Jazz on a Saturday, and to take us out, this is the winner of the first Australian Jazz Tunes competition, a tune called Boot Hill, and Bob, written by
Bob Wright, who's a musician in Adelaide.
And it was actually performed at the second Australian Jazz Convention, which was the first competition held in Melbourne back in 1947. I'll see you in a fortnight. John Smythe next week.